I work as an assistant driver on the railroad network. We work in pairs, the actual driver and his faithful assistant. One day my partner got sick, and I was sent on a trip with another machinist. We got acquainted before the trip, chatted, so I asked, "Where's your assistant?" He didn't pass the medical examination, his hands shook, he answered me. Well, they shook and shook, that does not happen in life. And that's where the subject fell silent. Let's go. We became friends, you could say. There were plenty of topics to talk about. He, like me, went to the gym and was a muscular uncle. So we chatted all the way to one side. At the end point we rested and drove back. We got a train with explosive materials, so we also went with a security guard. For transportation of hazardous substances there is a remote branch that runs through fields and forests. That's where they turned us off. It was late at night. We were driving along, chatting, and I could hear strange rustles and whispers on the walkie-talkie. Well, I picked up the receiver to listen, to put the speaker close to my ear, but all of a sudden the driver changed his face and almost shouted at me to put the receiver down. I put it down in bewilderment and asked what was the reason for such a violent reaction. He told me, "Remember I told you that my assistant's hands were shaking? It was the same thing. The rustling, the whispering in the radio, he also took to hear who was saying what, just like you are now. He was told something, as he says, some old woman, and his hands shook the next day. I don't know if it was from that, but what the hell?" The desire to listen to the radio immediately disappeared. I started asking him had some radio equipment left over from my grandfather. Many times they complained about her, that she was interfering with the airwaves. Even an investigation was conducted and she was found out, but for some reason even after the investigation she continued transmitting her messages. No action was taken. A little later we stood in front of a red light, and the railroad is not like a car road. The red light can be on for 3, even 10 hours in a row. The subject of the grandmother was forgotten, jokes and all sorts of other chatter started. After a while, a security guard came running out of the back booth with eyes like 2 saucers, saying, "There's a woman coming toward us in a nightgown and barefoot." Again, it was the middle of the night, the time of year was late autumn. There was snow on the street, the temperature was below 0. Remembering the ill-fated granny, we ran to close the doors of the locomotive. Back in the cabin, we turned off the light and were quiet. I was afraid to stick my head out of the window. I only heard somebody wandering around the locomotive, and then started knocking on the hull with pitiful pleas for help. The driver stuck his head out to see who was there. He could see if he really needed help, but immediately shut the window and walked away. Meanwhile, outside, the very same grandmother started running and laughing loudly. To say that we were frightened is to say nothing. 3 big men sat there scared as if they were small children. Luckily for us, the yellow light came on, and we drove off. After we arrived, we told the other locomotive crews, to which we were told that it was not an isolated incident, but she had not come up before, but sat nearby and watched, sometimes shouting something. That's the story. I don't know what it really was, maybe just a sick woman, or maybe a crazy witch, or maybe an escaped psychiatric patient. Thank you for watching friends, like and click on the bell, so as not to miss new creepy stories.